Apple is opening 4 more stores in India, and that's because its revenue has reached an all-time high in the country. Welcome to our weekly news show here at Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb Friesen, your host, and let's dive into Apple's strategy here in India. So these new stores are expected to be open in Bengaluru, Pune, Mumbai, and NCR, and this expansion will bring Apple's total store count in India to 6. But what's driving Apple's optimism here in India? Well, Tim Cook recently announced that Apple's revenue from iPhones in India had hit an all-time record. And it's not just iPhones. iPad sales have also shown double-digit growth in India, and Cook is clearly bullish on India, and for a good reason. Until 2019, Apple had barely 1% market share in India, and that same year, its revenue actually dropped by 19%. So what changed? Well, the answer is Tim Cook's India strategy. When he first visited India in 2016, he laid out a roadmap for growth, and by 2017, Apple had begun manufacturing iPhones in India, but fast forward to FY24, and Apple is now assembling $14 billion worth of iPhones here in India, representing nearly 14% of its global iPhone supply. And manufacturing in India allowed Apple to take advantage of PLI, the production-linked incentive scheme, which reduced iPhone prices locally. Take, for example, the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. They're 15,000 rupees cheaper than previous models thanks to local assembly. And this price advantage came just as India's smartphone market was shifting towards premium models, driven by a growing middle class and higher disposable income. And Apple has also doubled down on distribution too. They launched their first online store in India in 2020 and partnered with Amazon and Flipkart, which together generated 20% of Apple's annual revenue in India by 2021. And then in 2022, Apple opened their first physical stores in Mumbai and Delhi. And all of these moves have really paid off for Apple in India. Their revenue surged from 10,538 crore rupees in FY19 to 68,000 crore rupees in FY24. Their market share in terms of units sold has climbed from less than 2% in 2019 to 6.7% in 2024, with Apple dominating the super premium smartphone segment with 83% market share. And so all of this is why Tim Cook is doubling down on India, not only to expand Apple's presence locally, but to boost iPhone exports from India by leveraging the price advantage. All right, next up in the news, Microsoft is betting big on AI in India. Mustafa Suleyman, Microsoft's AI CEO, called India one of the company's fastest growing markets, and it's easy to see why. Microsoft's Hyderabad Data Centre is actually their largest software development center outside of the United States, and speaking at the Microsoft Building AI Companions in India event, Suleyman explained how Microsoft is pulling in experts from all fields, social scientists, psychologists, therapists, scriptwriters, even comedians, to bring fresh perspectives into developing their AI companions, and this diverse approach is all about building AI that's relatable, innovative, and grounded in human experiences. But Microsoft isn't alone here. Just last week, Nvidia announced its partnership with India to develop a custom AI chip. And so why are all these big tech companies coming to India for AI development? Well, 16% of the world's AI talent is actually based right here in India, and Indian startups are seizing this moment as well, with over 6,600 AI startups already making waves. All right, next up in the news, let's talk about Swiggy's IPO. So at the time of me filming this video on Thursday, day 2 of this IPO has closed, and they're looking at a subscription rate of just 35%. But that's actually a lot better than the subscription rate at the end of the first day, which stood at just 12%. So Swiggy's IPO size is 11,327 crore rupees, with each share price between 371 and 390 rupees. And at the top end, this gives Swiggy a market cap of about 87,298 crore rupees. And to put that into perspective, Zomato was valued higher with a market cap of around 1.07 lakh crore rupees during their IPO. Now, let's take a look back at the story of this company, because Swiggy was actually the leader in India's food delivery market until 2020, holding 52% market share. But things changed when Zomato acquired Uber Eats in that same year, and since then, Swiggy has struggled to regain its lead. Now, one reason Swiggy led early on was its willingness to try new things. They were one of the first to own their own delivery fleet, which is something that Zomato considered to be too costly at the time. And then in 2020, Swiggy entered the quick commerce space with Instamart 2 years before Zomato acquired Blinkit to jump into the same market. But in recent years, Swiggy seems to have lost some of that momentum, often following Zomato's moves. For example, Zomato launched their own 10-minute food delivery service in 2022, which Swiggy followed up with Bolt earlier this year in 2024. Interestingly though, by the time Swiggy launched Bolt, Zomato had already shut down their 10-minute food delivery service because they decided it wasn't viable for them. But Swiggy wanted to give it another shot ahead of their IPO. They also just recently partnered with PharmEasy to offer 10-minute medicine delivery, marking their entry into healthcare. Financially though, Swiggy reported a revenue of 11,634 crore rupees. This is for FY24 by the way, and it is slightly behind Zomato's 12,114 crore rupees. And when it comes to profitability, the gap is much bigger. While Zomato made a profit of 351 crore rupees, Swiggy reported a loss of 2,350 crore rupees. This profitability gap plays into why Zomato's valuation is nearly 2.5 times higher than Swiggy's today. So I'm curious to know, did you invest in Swiggy's IPO, or did you want to invest in Swiggy's IPO and you didn't get allotment, or did you stay away from that? Leave a comment down below. All right, next up in the news, just a quick update on CRED. They're getting into insurance now. They've partnered with Go Digit General Insurance, ICICI Lombard, and Zurich Kotak General Insurance to bring motor insurance to their users through CRED Garage, their vehicle management platform. And they're sweetening the deal with exclusive discounts based on user credit scores. And with more than 4.4 million users and 7 million vehicles already on CRED Garage, they are trying to drive user engagement and monetization from these users. And they're doing everything that they can to make this an attractive proposition. They're sweetening the deal with exclusive discounts based on user credit scores. And another quick little news update here is that WazirX is planning on launching a new decentralized exchange platform to help recover the $230 million that they lost in a cyber attack. So here's their plan. First, they're looking at creating this decentralized exchange where users hold their own assets in their own wallets, meaning more control and security over their funds. And with this move, WazirX is hoping to reduce the chances of another major hack. So that's just to get things started and for them to start making money again. And then after that, there is a profit sharing program where WazirX is planning on using a portion of its future profits to compensate users affected by the hack. As WazirX grows and makes money, a part of their profits will go directly into the wallets of those impacted. And this isn't an immediate fix. That's not a quick fix. It's a long-term recovery strategy that they're framing as a way of giving back to the community. And then lastly, there's tokenization. So WazirX is considering issuing tokens to represent the lost funds. These tokens could later be traded or redeemed on the platform. And the idea is that over time, these tokens would stabilize in value and users could choose to cash out or hold on to them as the market recovers. And then finally, the last step here that WazirX is doing is they're doubling down on security and transparency. They're saying that they're going to be enhancing security measures and that they are committed to keeping users in the loop with regular updates, aiming to rebuild trust and ensure users feel informed throughout the recovery process. All right, now let's move into the funding news segment for today's video. So this week, Indian startups raised a total of $80 million, which is significantly lower than last week and also way below the trend line. But now let's take a look at some of the companies that have raised funds this week. And the first one I want to talk about here is Mumbai-based home financing startup Easy Home Finance. They raised $35 million in their Series B round. After that, we have Bengaluru-based D2C health and fitness brand BoldFit, and they sell gym equipment and nutritional supplements through their platform, and they've raised $13 million. Following that, we have Bengaluru-based robotics startup Siler, which stands for Cybernetics Laboratory, and they're building robots for industrial use, which can identify and pick up objects without having to pre-train these robots on specific tasks, and they've raised $10 million in their Series A round. Next, we have a Hyderabad-based drone startup, Moto Drones, which is making drones specifically for agricultural purposes. Their flagship drone, AG365, is a multi-purpose agriculture drone designed for tasks such as pesticide spraying, fertilizer broadcasting, direct seeding, and crop monitoring, and they're aiming to enhance farming efficiency and productivity, and they've raised $6.2 million in their Series A round. And then finally, we have Indore-based hardware startup Cast NX, which specializes in power electric tools with variable frequency drivers, solar energy converters, and AC-DC power converters, and they've raised $2.75 million. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. If you haven't checked it out already, we recently made a video about the top 10 startups from Chhattisgarh. You can find that video in the top right corner of your screen. But either way, thank you so much for watching. I'm Caleb Friesen, and this has been Backstage with Millionaires.